everybody, and welcome to the 5 Tips and Tricks for Careers in Athletics. I am your host, Dr. Maury Mosovitz, with my all-time most favorite, best, most wonderful, the most incredible and talented Jen Albanese. Hello, Jen.
Hi, Dr. Mosovitz. How are you today?
Great.
Welcome to the podcast, everybody.
Lovely. Very excited to have Sheri Rhodes coming in. Wonderful woman, connected to us by the Herm Fraser. You can't
the incredible, the
man connected us with her and her experience, both through his time. Like they crossed paths a couple times.
I was gonna say when we were talking, like Arizona State and
the Olympics,
obviously.
So my question: any connection to archery, Jen? Like, did you? At any point?
I mean, I think the only, like, we did it in high school. Like, I think it was part of, like, gym class. Like, we had to, like,
I didn't get that in high school. I think that would have been fun.
Terrible. I
was
so terrible. Actually, my mom is really good at it, which is kind of funny.
I would not have expected that.
Yeah.
Where did your mom participate in archery?
High school. Like when we did it in high school, like you had and I think if you got the bullseye,
this must be like an upstate New York high school thing, because it didn't happen. It didn't happen in Maryland.
Yeah. And I feel like you would, like, if you got the bullseye, I remember her telling me stories that, like, you won a Coke or something. You won like a soda or something. But
see, my experience with archery was at camp. And so at summer camp, it was one of my most favorite things. Like, I loved
Were you good at it?
I actually wasn't bad. Like, it was something that I was like, okay. Now, of course, like everything else, it made me a little nervous. Like, you always were
shocker,
because
Maury.
there would be like 5 people lined up, and like they would freak you out because they don't want you to like stand in the range while somebody's like shooting. So I'd always be like very nervous. Like, okay, is this other 10-year-old kid gonna all by accident turn around and
shoot you with hit you with the bow?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And unfortunately, as you know, my parents, they're not the type of parents that would like allow us to have archery at our house.
No, you're not doing that in the backyard. You're not doing that in the backyard.
They would have freaked out. Like, I know a lot of people that I'm now friends with or grew up with that, like, that's just, it would be normal. That's not a problem. Hunting or whatever, they'd go and just have a little archery. But nope. But I loved it. They'd put like the balloons.
Yes.
They would put, and you had to hit the balloons. Or I actually got would hit the bullseye every once in a while.
Nice.
I felt like I got pretty good, and I thought it was the coolest thing.
See, there you go. Could go right back to our Olympic conversation. You could have competed in archery, Maury. You would have been all set.
I actually, that would have been one we can add from the second guy in the bobsled. Yeah. An archery thing. I still think I'd probably be better as like the second or third guy in the bobsled, because archery would be all on me. Maybe I could I would be able to I'd be like the manager for them. I'd load their quiver or something like that. I'd probably be
that. Just that manager, lifetime manager for any sport that you were ever a part of.
That was my bread and butter. It might still be manager is really where I know my skill set is at.
Oh my God. Well, hey, you're definitely better at archery than I ever was. I think it was because I was short. Like, I think it was just hard for me.
Yeah, but your mother's short.
I know, but she's also
oh God.
She wouldn't. You don't mess with my mom. She'll just get you.
Just pull up that archery and it's get the bow out and bam.
Exactly. And
we're gonna have to find.
Afraid. I was like,
We're gonna have to find like a local place where we can try some archery.
I know. Yeah. I'm not good at darts either. I feel like all of those things together are just, I'm not good at
anything that's a bullseye that's really just not in your wheelhouse.
It's not my wheelhouse. No, nope, not it. But Sheri obviously is an expert at it.
Yes,
so.
that's she clearly is the one. You can get tips from her. But we're looking forward to having her coming up after these messages.
Are you a loyal 5 Tips and Tricks podcast listener? If not, now is the time to start. Get all your info and fun content on the podcast by following us on all our social channels at @AthCareerPod. The 5 Tips and Tricks podcast is a part of Athletic Career Consulting. Make sure to reach out to us. The one-stop shop for everything is our website, www.athcareer.com. Remember, follow and like us on @AthCareerPod, rate and review us, and get all your info at www.athcareer.com. All right, everybody, welcome back. Maury, would you like to introduce our guest today?
I really want to introduce this guest. She is a living legend in the world of archery, a pioneer, a mentor, and a relentless force behind the sport's evolution in the U.S. For more than 5 decades, she's worn nearly every hat imaginable: athlete, coach, administrator, judge, and an international team manager. She was a state champion in high school, a 3-time All-American at Arizona State, and eventually returned to lead her alma mater for nearly 60 titles over 17 years. Her journey continued through 7 seasons at Stanford and onto the global stage, coaching at the U.S. team at the Pan Am Games, the Seoul Olympics, and again in Athens in 2004. Her influence extended far beyond the shooting line, from serving as a deputy director of Olympic shooting at the 1984 LA Games to competing manager in Atlanta in 1996. She's been instrumental in shaping some of the sport's most pivotal moments. She's managed the U.S. team across nearly every format, target, field, indoor, and across all groups for over 30 years. From 2013 to 2023, she led the U.S. Archery National Event Manager, while she also contributed as a continental judge, a former USAA board member, and a member of the numerous and international coaching committees. Today, we are very honored to have Sheri Rhodes join us. Welcome, Sheri.
Thank you. Sherry. It's nice to be here.
What a bio. Like, we're so lucky to have you.
That is so impressive.
Thank you so much. I have been lucky to have done the things that I've been able to list on my bio.
Yeah, it's just so incredible to just be so dedicated to a sport for such an amazing amount of time, and just being so dedicated and passionate. We're so interested to hear what you have to say, both from your experience just across the gamut of being so integral in a sport that's so widely known across the world.
Great. I've encountered people who have encouraged me, and that's been part of the reason for some of my successes. And go ahead.
No, we're really looking forward to hearing about what you think and the tips that you can share with someone that wants to get into the world of sports and particularly archery.
Okay.
Awesome.
So do you want to give your first tip?
All right. The first thing you want to remember is that a position or a job in athletics is not an 8 to 5, 9 to 5 situation. You need to find a person. If home life is important to you, you have to find a balance, number one. But number two, you have to find that person that's going to work alongside with you in the home situation to help you achieve the goals that you want to achieve.
What was that like through your career? Like, how did you make that work personally?
My partner is an athlete.
Yeah.
So they
that
understand.
Helps.
They understand.
It does, yes. So while I was busy being an administrator and a coach, he was shooting competitively, both domestically and internationally. And in some of those cases, that's where I benefited, because I got to go along for the ride. And we did things locally that enhanced both his career and the status of and the opportunities of archery in the state of Arizona. State of Arizona is very forefront when it comes to implementing changes. And for a while there, when Jim Easton, who was the president of Easton Sports, was on both the international, the World Archery Federation board and the IOC board, and we were making changes to the format or trying out changes for the format to make archery more TV friendly. We did a lot of experimentation in Arizona at our events, and that was fun. Yeah. That was, to be in on that kind of it's not record breaking, but groundbreaking scenario. Yeah. So we could say, hey, this works, this doesn't work, and he would come over and cause he lived in LA, and he'd say, okay, let's try this. And so that was, that's been part of the fun along the way.
Mm-hmm. I love the point. And I like that you said this as your first tip, to have that balance and understand like that it's not a 9 to 5, and that whoever, like, family is important to you, like trying to find that person that will balance it. Cause I think people forget about that. And then they like try to fit that into their life, like meet someone and then try to fit that in. And sometimes that can be difficult. So I think that that's a really good first tip. Really.
And I meant, how cool is it that you guys got to experience being on the cutting edge of the sport and like doing it together too? Like that's such a unique and awesome experience. Like that had to be pretty incredible to be able to do that, get archery to a world stage and have it, its TV has evolved so much with the Olympics and nationally, being able to do that at, as a couple, but also within your sport.
Very different. And I think it is unique among sports people that you find that partnership. Sometimes you'll see it in other sports, like a lot of times wives will be caddies for their spouses. And vice versa. The husbands or the male partner will be a caddy for the female partner. And I think that's a special situation where you can both enjoy a sport to that level.
No, that's awesome. Cool tip. Awesome. Okay. First one is great. Let's go on to number 2.
Okay. Tip number 2, along your way, along your path, along your road, you're going to run across different people and they're going to influence you. And the thing to remember when you get to a certain point, if they're not in your life anymore, is to kind of look back and think how they impacted you and what the good things they did that were beneficial to where you are today, and to learn from those people along the way. Because if you're a young person, 20s and 30s, you've had a couple different coaches along the way. You've had probably a high school coach, a college coach, and then if you've graduated, maybe a professional coach that works with you. So each one of those people brings a different lifestyle and a different methodology with them. And there are good things that you can learn from that scenario.
As a professional and a person in the industry, what were some examples of people that affected your life? What are the ones that stick out to you most in your experience?
There were a couple ones. First was my dad, who was a high school track and cross country coach. And I watched him, from the sidelines as a young person who was just involved, not necessarily involved in sports when I was in elementary school, but it was kind of a requirement in the summertime. You didn't just get to sit around. You either played softball or you swam or you did other things to keep busy. You just didn't get to sit on the couch and watch TV. And then watched him, at his events, and saw the camaraderie that he had with his athletes. And that's a special thing. And then when I went to college, my collegiate coach, Margaret Clan, was a good influence. And at the same time, I was also having outside coaching from a professional coach in the city of Phoenix, who was very instrumental in developing archery in the city, Al Henderson. And he would have been our first modern day Olympic coach, but there was a hang up with some technical stuff. So he was actually our second. And he was very subtle about the things that he wanted to impress upon you. And so I, in thinking back, when I would deal with different athletes from a coaching perspective, every once in a while, I would remember how Al would, work through those things with me and others. And then, after that, there were, like I said, Jim Easton, who was always encouraging us in Arizona to stretch the boundaries and to do different things as far as the format of the event goes, and very just all of the people along the way were just willing to give.
That's such a great tip.
Yeah. It is good to be. It's funny. I say to Maury, doing this podcast, it reminds us of all the people that we've worked with and had in our lives that have made impact. And now that we're getting to meet new people too, like what they're teaching us and what we're learning. And I feel like it's something that you always do throughout your career. You're always learning from the people around you, whether it's good or bad. So that's a really good one to be able to remember to accept all of that and learn little pieces from everybody that impacts you. So.
Hopefully you're learning. And if it's a good day, it's a good day if you can learn something every day.
Exactly.
100%. We always say that. Good or bad, right, Maury?
We rarely walk away from a podcast, or usually a day, where we're not picking up on something that we haven't heard before.
Exactly.
Oh, that's good.
We try. We keep saying to each other, like, and even after we listen to them back, like we talk every once in a while and say, hey, remember when this person said that, or bring it. And so it's so great to hear perspectives of people like yourselves, and especially in such a unique sport and environment, and to hear the history that you have just makes it so much more interesting. So we really appreciate it. And I didn't realize that Jim Easton was so integral in the world of archery. And I knew about his businesses from his kind of place in other parts of sports too, but it's really interesting to hear.
The Easton family of sports actually started with archery. His dad created the first.
That's so cool.
I want to say the first, but developed the first aluminum arrow shaft.
That's awesome.
That's
so interesting to hear.
See, we just learned something new. Look
more.
At this. We learned something new.
Well, with that, let's go number 3. Jen, I'm on target, right?
Yes,
number 3.
We're on number 3.
All right, number 3. Yep. Each situation that you encounter with an athlete, an administrator, a colleague, a parent, etc., is hardly ever a black and white situation. And if you can remember to first and foremost be a listener, and then secondly, step back from the situation and see if there is something outside the box that works to make it a win-win situation. Now, sometimes it is a black and white situation, and you have to go by the rules, and you have to say, well, okay, this is what the rules tell us that we need to do. But how did we get here, and can we change things along the way so that we're not here again?
No, it's a good tip. One that I think is so hard when you're early on in your career and you're so unsure of yourself, that the longer you go on and you can kind of think things more abstractly and use your experiences, that makes it so much easier. But one that I found so hard early on in my career to be like, okay, well, this is the rules and this is how you have to do it. Or I was quick to feel like I had to answer somebody right away instead of listening and figuring through it. So it's so important.
Yeah, it's funny you say listening, because I feel like our mutual friend Herman Fraser also had listening as one of his tips, and he's been very successful as well. So it's a good pattern to kind of follow, of learning to listen to a situation before jumping to a quick answer, and understanding sometimes things aren't always black and white. So listening is always a good one. Listening is very important.
And also to look outside the box. I mean, how frequently is it just so easy to give an answer like yes or no, instead of trying to say, and this is something I've tried to train myself to, like, okay, well, I understand what you're trying to get at, and we might not be able to do it exactly that way, but what if we tried this? Or could we collaborate on finding something in the middle? I mean, Jen and I probably 100 times have gotten together to like find something that works so that it works for both sides of what we're doing. And how important is that? And even working with the coaching staffs, because a lot of times coaches have, and I'm sure you know this, their vision of things, and then how do you make that kind of work in the reality of the world?
That's a good one. Sometimes coaches can be unrealistic. Yeah, so it is a good one. Let's put it into perspective and see how we go from here.
And you try and see, like, how can we? I see what you're trying to get at. How can we get to what you're, as close to what you're looking for as possible in what what we've got going on. So what a great way to look at it. So awesome. Okay, number 4.
Number 4.
4. Being a good athlete is not necessarily a good indicator that you will make a successful coach or administrator.
Wow.
You need to expand beyond what you know as an athlete. You need to understand if you're going to be an administrator, you need to understand the accounting that goes into a budget. You need to know what a realistic budget looks like. You need to know so many more things. As I have grown in the sport, my knowledge of things outside just the technical aspects of being a coach have come along the way. And it's the decision to actually, I didn't make the decision. My college coach, Margaret Clan, said, "Hey, Sheri, we need a judge at one of the high school events." And she says, come along, and here's the rule book, read it. And then so that started me on my way. I've been a national judge since 1984, which I think is one of the it's and it doesn't matter if you take a situation like becoming familiar with the rules or taking a course as a soccer coach and understanding, from experiencing the sport from another angle. But now you have that intimate knowledge of the other side of the coin sometimes. And I think that that's helpful.
No, that's a good one. I would be really fascinated because you've worked with so many people that have been athletes and transitioned to coaching and different parts of the sports and your experience. For those student athletes out there, that transition between being a student athlete and going on to the next part in your life can be difficult because you're either staying with the sport in some way or saying, hey, I'm going to move on professionally, and maybe it's a secondary part of your life, not as integral as it's been like during your college or high school career. How do you figure out if coaching is right for you? How do you put your toe in the water to figure out, I want to go into administration? What has your experience been with mentoring people that are really trying to understand the difference between their time as a student athlete or student or an athlete and into the college or professional world?
Just seeing that spark. If you get someone who has shows an interest in and is always there whenever you're putting on a tournament and says, how can I help? Or the young person who says, I'm probably not going to make it all that far in as far as competitive situation goes.
Yeah.
So what are some options? And for people in archery, the International Federation has a youth judge program that they can work through. And I think that's great because what their motivation is, what the federation's motivation is to show that there is life after competition, number one, and that you can be a young person and you're not seeing, unfortunately, all too often. And this is not a put down for any judge or any official or any referee who's been out there working at their profession for a long time. But sometimes the young people coming up who are dealing with a judge that's a little bit on the gray-haired side, and they go, or official, or whatever role they umpire, whatever role it is, it's good to have someone that you can look at and go, well, this person's only like 5 or 10 years older than I am. They're not 20 or 30 years older than I am. They're so far. Sometimes I think young athletes get the idea that just because a person has taken the path to be an official, a team official, or a sport official, is that they lose touch with the competitive aspect. And I don't think that's true. Mm-hmm. But sometimes because they're so focused on the rules that I think that they give that impression. And to know that there is a role model out there that says to a young person that says, I can do this. If I get to the point where competition is not my deal anymore, that there's somewhere else for me to go in the sport.
Yeah. And how great it is for your organization too, that you're building officials, because so many sports right now are struggling to find officials and build that up and be able to keep the game going. And people forget, if you don't have people in those roles, you can't put on competitions. Like, it's so vital to build that up. So what a great thing for your sport, both for developmental purposes, but also to keep competitions going.
Right.
No, that's awesome.
Yeah, that's great.
Okay,
Great.
Jen.
All right, last one, Sheri. So, what do you know now that you wish you knew then? So, what do you know now at this point in your career that you wish you knew when you first started?
Yeah, I don't know if it's that I wish I knew, but because we always seem to do it surreptitiously,
Yeah.
but that along the way, you need to have a plan to incorporate fun into your work.
Yeah.
Like if you were an athlete that went to Paris, if you didn't take time to see the Louvre, if you didn't take time to see the Palace at Versailles, if you didn't take, a half day to do that stuff, you had an all expense paid trip to Paris.
Exactly.
Seriously, take another,
yeah.
if you can, plan for it. But you have to think about those things in advance. So if you're taking a road trip, or if there's, I have to tell a funny story. When I was early on in my coaching career, we didn't host, but we attended a tournament over at Glendale Community College, and it just happened to be on Easter Sunday. And my mom dressed up as the Easter Bunny and gave out chocolate to everybody.
I love it, but that's so fun, and you remember that. I love that.
It's always a part of your memory.
Yeah.
That's great.
So great. I love that. And fun. Sometimes I think people take things too seriously sometimes, and to be able to look at it in the bigger picture of like, you're making a memory, you're making, that whether it's with your teammates or with your coworkers, if you're traveling with them, or if you're getting an opportunity to go to a Final Four or something like that, to be able to enjoy it and like take in the fact that you get this opportunity. Like you said, going to Paris, how do you not go see those places and things as part of it, that you have these opportunities that not many people have. So I love that. Fun is important, and people forget about that. Like they just don't think of it. So that's good.
But when people come back to the program after they've been away from it for a while, those are some of the things that they remember.
Right.
It's that first story they come up to you and say, remember when we did this? Like, I feel like that's the one that's like always.
Yep.
That's the one that always makes an impression.
Yeah. And if it's one of those that's a positive, and most of those fun things are positive, then you're winning all the way around.
Yeah.
Exactly. So good. I love that.
Well, Sheri, thank you so much for your time. We really enjoyed having you and hearing all the things you have to tell us about being in the profession, about the sport of archery. And we look forward to seeing great things to come. Any big plans for LA Olympics? Is there things out there that you're going to be a part of, or go out and...
Not at this point in time. Maybe a volunteer position. I don't know, but we'll see what rolls around in a couple more years.
Well, hopefully we'll see you out in LA and see you on TV doing some fun things with archery in the Olympics.
That would be fun.
That would be awesome. Thank you, Sheri, so much. We appreciate it. And thanks everybody for listening. Make sure you follow us on all of our socials at AthCareerPod, and subscribe to on all your podcast platforms. This was great. Thank you so much.
Bye, everyone.
You're welcome.
Bye.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
If you like the 5 Tips and Tricks podcast, make sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. You can rate and review us, including questions that may be answered on future episodes. The 5 Tips and Tricks podcast for careers in athletics is part of Athletic Career Consulting. Check us out at www.athcareer.com. Don't forget to follow and like us on your top social media platforms.